So we're going to be going over Kasparian has been upset over the term birthing person. And this has been all over Twitter. Matt Walsh was tweeting about it. Really big accounts like this one were tweeting about 1 million followers. Carrie Lake, who was, I believe, an Arizona governor candidate. Like, a lot of people have been talking about this on political Twitter, and it's an important issue, and it does affect trans people. And as far as what's going on, Kasparian made a tweet that said, "I am a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus, birthing person, or person who menstruates. How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this shit." Now, what is the problem of this tweet? Now, at its core, the thing that a lot of trans people will notice is that this is really, really close to TERF rhetoric. The idea that inclusive language hurts cis women is something that TERFs use a lot. It's one of the things that they use to keep trans women out of women's spaces. They'll be like, oh, well, including these trans women, this hurts, cis women. And these are the types of things that these far right communities look for, oh, look, even the left people are tired of the trans craziness. So I think in general, this is a pretty bad tweet to make. And I think what it probably ended up being is she just probably got minorly angry over something that she was referred to or something that she saw, and she just tweeted this. But when you have a platform of her size of let me see how many followers that Anna has. 500,000 followers, and you have people like Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Zuby, and you have legit people that have run for office broadcasting this. What is going to be broadcast is that people on the left are tired of trans inclusivity. That is what's going to be broadcast to people. Now, there were some people that came across and tried respectfully telling Anna that hey, maybe you should back off a little. There's a reason why you're being broadcast. And Humanist Report says, "I respect you a lot, but there's this notion that the mere existence of trans-inclusive terms, rarely used in casual conversation, somehow degrades women, comes right out of the right's anti-trans war on women playbook. There's a reason why they're praising you for this." If someone like Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh agreed with my opinion, I would probably rethink to be... Yeah, that's true, Mika. That's honestly I think one of my biggest problems is her getting broadcast like she is by the far right. Now, this tweet by Humanist Report is at least one of my core issues with what Anna's saying. Essentially, it's the idea that trans-inclusive language causes issues and is harmful to cis women, and that's just not true. The reason why terms like this exist is because it helps, especially transgender men, be included in medical terminology and political discussions. Now, why is that important? Because things like this happen. Nurse mistakes transgender pregnant man as obese, then the man births a stillborn baby. There are, if you have been a trans person and used the medical system before, severe lacking of knowledge when it comes to trans people. A lot of people don't even know transgender men exist. They don't know that trans men can get pregnant. I have been asked in doctor's offices before if I have had a period before. Overall, the medical field when it comes to trans issues is just if you're a trans person, you're going to have to deal with a lot of people that have no idea what a trans person is whatsoever. And this can cause harmful situations where people can die from this. And the idea that we should cater language that is used to be more accurate and represent a more accurate group of people, so that way people know that trans men, get a different type of care than what most cis men get in some instances, is important to cover. And it's also, it's a medically accurate term. And on top of that, even when I've been in doctor's offices before, I usually get called AMAB, or I get asked if I'm AMAB or AFAB, which is assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth. I've rarely heard people with uteruses or birthing person even used before. So I don't really know exactly what she's so upset about, because it really seems like some of this is manufactured. Like, who is calling Anna Kasparian birthing person? Like genuinely, who is genuinely calling her birthing person interpersonally? Because interpersonally, I can understand, like, if you personally don't want to be called that, I get it. But when we're talking about large political discussions and like medical terminology, it's absolutely appropriate to use stuff like birthing person for someone. Like, I genuinely do not understand the anger over it. These terms are pretty new, if I'm not mistaken, so I don't know if they're being used in medical settings yet. I do know in political settings, AOC has used the term before, but that's in like political discussion where it is absolutely relevant to acknowledge that like transgender men exist. It's important when you're drafting policy to like know the group of people that you're legislating and doing things for, you know, like that's an important thing to know about. And it's like, okay, so if you don't like birthing person, do you want us to just label all trans men as women? Because if you do, this happens because people don't think that men can get pregnant. So in my opinion, the solution here is basically for people like Anna, just frankly, to get over it. You're going to have terms that you may not like that are going to be used for you, but overall, there is more harm being done in this terminology, like not being used than it being used. And most people genuinely don't care. This is not an issue I've seen brought up besides Anna Kasparian. Most people I talk to in everyday life don't even know that trans men exist, or even don't really care much about this terminology in general. I just think this is like a non-issue that is the weirdest hill to die on and have broadcast to literal millions of people. I've seen plenty of people who don't just know that trans men exist. There's definitely not a lot of information on them. Well, yeah, because the vast majority of like stuff the right is talking about is trans women, and it's because they want to go ahead and label like trans women as like, you know, whole plethora of bad things. And like essentially it's very similar to the gay groomer rhetoric way back, you know, before I was alive, but that sort of rhetoric was used back then, and they're just reusing it. What? Oh, timeout. Don't know why that person's randomly promoting stuff in here. All right. So Humanist Report says, how many people are actually referring to you using this language? It must be a lot of air. This grievance in the middle of an international hate crusade against trans people. I'm sure Ben Shapiro retweeting you because he supports your reproductive freedom, though. So this right here, like we've had over 400 anti-trans bills this year. In Florida right now, they are passing bills that are so extreme for anti-drag that it'll literally stop multiple like shows that have been going on in Florida that aren't even drag shows. And you have Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh has literally gotten legislation passed. Like these are people that you like if you get broadcast by, that you need to self-reflect as a leftist and be like, I wonder why Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro are broadcasting my tweets to millions of people. Wasn't there like, there was if I believe correctly, last year it was a little over 200. It was close to 300. This year it's been like double, and we were only like 3 or 4 months into the year. But thankfully, the legislative sessions for a lot of states are ending, so we're going to see a drop in trans legislation that's being like introduced, and what we're instead going to see is a lot of court cases that are getting won. We're already seeing court cases in several states actually that are winning. Yeah, it's around 450. Like, let me see. I think there's a website that I've used before. Might be this one. Yeah, here it is. So for almost 500 bills so far, and we're barely 4 months into the year. But thankfully, like I said, the legislative sessions are almost over. So that means that a lot of these, in my opinion, are going to fail in court. Like Alabama had a anti-trans youth ban that failed in court and it was blocked. I think that a lot of these bills are going to fall by the wayside in the courts. As well as one thing that's really important, Biden winning got a lot of judges put in, like a lot, and that does really, really good work to help stop a lot of these things. So we're going to go ahead and continue. Basically, the rest of this thread is just Anna complaining that this is guilt by association for being accused of like being broadcast by Ben Shapiro. This is incredibly lazy. Like it's not guilt by association. The problem is that she's using literal TERF rhetoric and being broadcast by the far right to hurt trans people. That is the problem. It's not guilt by association. It's, hey, you need to use your platform effectively and properly, because otherwise you are leading to harm of trans people. That is already like a huge increase of that this year. Now going on. So that was all the way back in towards the end of March, the 23rd. She's choosing to signal boost fascist messaging. Yeah, pretty much. Cut to a few days ago, which is why I'm bringing this up. This person right here, let me see if let me just bring this up. So there was a clip basically of this woman here, Olay, and she talks about basically what's said here. So I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to play the clip because she kind of just covers it in her comment. You made a transphobic statement and we spent an hour on the show defending you from allegations of being a TERF rather than addressing the substantive problems with your comment. I said I felt like they were coddling you. I stand by that. If you think that makes me a hater, knock yourself out. Then Anna Kasparian comes through with brain dead tweet. LOL, the meltdowns over not wanting to be referred to as a woman or be referred to as a woman rather than a birthing person is pretty wild. I'll never apologize for that, especially as a biological woman who's had a fucking lifetime of being told I'm less than. I'm a woman, no apologies. Yeah, first off, biological woman is already a yikesies because, like, I'm gonna be real, at least for my opinion, I always have considered sex and gender to be two completely different things. When I think of biological woman, like it's a term that logically doesn't even make sense to me. I think a term that's like more proper to use is like, I'll use like maybe assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth. And I think those are more appropriate than like biological woman, because I don't know, whenever I hear biological woman, I just instantly get like, there's that gif of the hamster that's having like the PTSD. And I get that every single time that I hear biological woman. I just imagine all the TERF tweets and stuff that I see every day. But she even claims down below, has anyone called you a birthing person? Anyone at all? Yes, Tyler. I live in California. Like, I'm sorry, but the audacity of this woman to be just like, she saw herself getting broadcast by far-right, literal fascists, self-declared fascists, by the way. Matt Walsh has theocratic fascists in his bio, and she is being broadcast by these people and using literal TERF rhetoric. Trans inclusivity does not take away from cis women. Trans men, trans women, and non-binary people existing does not take away from cis people. It is not a big deal to use a medically inclusive term that helps prevent harm from happening. That is not a problem that exists. And she knows this. Anna Kasparian knows this because she's made this argument before. She's literally made this exact argument before to Republicans. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Let me go ahead and mute and then turn on the audio here and play this clip for you.
It's bad faith. They know there's a difference between gender and sex. They know that it is very possible for someone to be born a biological male or a biological female, but in terms of gender, identify differently as a male or non-binary, but they still have the biological capacity, the physical capacity to get pregnant. So that's why the language, the rhetoric is inclusive to include those people. It is not a big deal, but they make it a big deal. They manufacture it into a big deal because that's all Republicans are. That's all they have. This is all they do. Endless bad faith arguments meant to fearmonger and direct hatred and fear toward other Americans, typically powerless Americans. It's bad faith.
She literally argued. She argued with herself. Like this, from what I understand, is an older clip of her compared to what she's saying now. But this is what I mean. She knows that she's wrong, and she knows that these arguments that she's making are poor. I don't think personally that she's grifting. I don't think it's something like that. I think what's happening is when you get dogpiled online by literal hundreds of people over like a small little tweet you made, what can happen is it causes your brain to just not be able to process it, and you just go into like defense mode instantly. Yeah, it's hard to admit that you're wrong. Like, I don't think that Anna like genuinely holds these positions. I think what happened is she's just been dogpiled online and now is in total defense mode and just isn't thinking clearly. I genuinely think what she needs to do is just log off Twitter and just take time and sit back and just like cool off, I think is what she needs to do, because it's incredibly clear to me that she is not thinking clearly when she makes these posts when I see this clip. Like, I've had situations, my account has grown pretty rapidly. I've definitely had situations where people have approached me with valid criticism that in the moment I get upset about. And, you know, I don't always want to take that criticism and be okay with it. And you know what I do is I usually take a step back, cool off, log off Twitter, and just vibe, because that's what a lot of people need on this platform. Like, I swear so much discourse happens because someone is wrong about something and they don't want to admit they're wrong. And instead of like taking time to think on it, they just continue to tweet and tweet and tweet and tweet. So we go on to even more ridiculousness. And this is, so about a day after that tweet happened, Cenk said goodbye to many multi-year supporters, calls out Lance from the serfs, and Anna says she never wants to collaborate with leftists again. So we're going to watch this clip real quick.
One that I read. So I'll just say this. Okay, I love you, and it's okay. And if you disagree, it's okay. If you want to leave, that's okay. Okay. Thank you for being a member all this time. I appreciate it. But what you're, in my opinion, what your misunderstanding is, and what you have maybe you didn't see is, so all this kerfuffle starts with a simple tweet, and then at least half a dozen videos from other progressives or leftists online, all attacking us and calling us all sorts of names. So maybe you don't see that, so you think like, well, what is Cenk so upset about, right? So they call us all these names and they feel super proud about it, like, we are more pure. So then I fight back on Twitter, and then all of a sudden they're like, how could you insult us? We were just, all we were doing was punching you in the face. No, that's a right-wing position. You punch, then you gotta expect that I'm gonna counter, right? I don't mean you kid tested, I mean for folks who are out there, here, I'll name the name, Lance from the serfs. He's on here all the time on the power panel, right? And he comes out and does this like video about how he's so correct and oh yeah, the Young Turks, correct? No, Lance, you're not goddamn correct. Nobody elected you. The polling shows no one agrees with you. Your 12 buddies online, I don't care, okay? And say, oh yeah, I'm 100%. He's 99.95% correct. Oh, I'm gonna correct him. No. So don't.
So first half of this. One, the polls don't show anything he's saying. The left already uses these terms like birthing people and things like that. And guess what? We beat the shit out of Republicans in 2022. We did a really good job. And we very recently did well in Wisconsin. So if anything, the right's response to transgender issues are costing them elections, and what the left is doing is good. Like, the idea that using this inclusive language hurts elections is just wrong. It's just flat out not correct. Now, in terms of Lance from the Serfs, I'm not a huge fan of Lance, but he was incredibly kind, and there was a lot of leftists I saw replying to Anna that were also incredibly kind. And I'm going to be frank, they do not deserve this level of disrespect from someone like Cenk. I'm sorry, like flat out, like when you have tons of people, like 99% of the people that you normally collaborate with that are just telling you like, hey, maybe you should think about this. Maybe you should step back. It's time to step back and self-reflect and not do whatever the hell this is. So we're going to go ahead and continue.
Look, you want to say, hey, I don't agree with you? God bless. You want to say, Cenk, you shouldn't say anything back because you're being rude? Come on, brother or sister. I don't know what your
I just gotta be honest. I just don't really care to like collaborate with any other leftist ever again at this point.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at, because they come on the show, they build a name for themselves, and then they build a bigger name for themselves, trashing us as if they don't know who we are, as if they haven't worked with us, they don't know what our actual political values are. So I don't, Jake, I never want to talk about them again. I never want to address them again. It's a waste of time. There's important stuff going on in the country. Our personal drama with a bunch of leftists on Twitter doesn't matter.
So personal drama, personal, that's the line that kills me in this little rant by Anna. Personal drama is not when you get broadcasted by Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and you use turf rhetoric in doing so. And on top of that, not wanting, like, imagine being such a, honestly, like, baby, snowflake even, to be so angry about people criticizing you in a polite way. Because we can go back to this tweet. Look at Humanist Report. Does Humanist Report really look like he is being that mean to Anna? Like, genuinely? He is incredibly respectful. Incredibly respectful, more so than I think a lot of people should probably have even been to her. Like, the idea that people were mean and like bullied her online, it's like people gave you basic criticism on the issue that you were speaking of, and you just whined like a child and just refuse to take any criticism and learn from what's happening. And that is the biggest disappointment that I have in Anna for this. Anna has been someone, and Cenk, that has talked about trans issues and has supported trans people for a very long time. And to see them get to this point where over a small little dispute that they're wrong about, that they have plenty of people that are close to them that are giving them genuine criticism, that she's just like, they're both just completely shrugging it off and being like, we don't want to collaborate with leftists ever again. They're just attention seeking. It's just like, it's disappointing. That's the biggest word that I have for this, is it's disappointing. I expect way more out of Anna Kasparian than this. Genuinely. Like, she's someone that I know is intelligent enough to not behave this way. And it is incredibly disappointing to see this happening. And this rhetoric is going to be used by the right to hurt trans people. It just is. Like, these are the types of things that the right looks for. And they'll be like, hey, look at, oh, even the left is tired of the trans think nonsense. She said it herself in that. Yeah, no, exactly. That old clip literally tears herself apart. Like, genuinely. Like, that's what is so funny, is that like she absolutely knows better than this and she needs to be better. And it's just disappointing. I don't really have anything. You have a lot more faith in Anna and Cenk than I do. I just know how like being a large account or having a big following in general like can work. And I do know that there's just a lot of things that happen when people double or triple down on takes that can come from like just online, like Twitter brain. It happens all the time. I've done it before. Like I'll bring up one that happened to me recently. I had so you know how like Twitter, I'm not sure if you guys noticed this, but Twitter started censoring the word trans and other things on the platform. So I started using italic text in order to do so, and then people pointed out that this would cause issues with screen readers. And like when you have like, you know, when I'm talking about Elon Musk like censoring like all of LGBT Twitter, and someone talks about like you know, something to me that didn't seem like too big of an issue until I learned more about it, it was frustrating. But what I did is I took a step back, I thought on what people said, and then I implemented changes in order to better accommodate people. That is a way more mature response that people need to make when they're like upset about something that they don't need to be upset about. Just take a step back, vibe, play. I'm about to play Destiny 2. Play Destiny 2, play something, and just like let it melt, you know? Think on it. Calm down a little, and then return back. And I feel like Twitter would be a better place.